to help with back to school and sports physicals. Healthy kids learn better and play harder. Call 217-824-1134 today to schedule your appointment. That's 217-824-1134. SIU Medicine, forward for you. Finding the right employees can be a real challenge these days, whether you're hiring full-time or part-time. That's where the regional radio stations come in. We're here to help you connect with the qualified candidates you need. Check out IllinoisJobPost.com. That's IllinoisJobPost.com. It's part of our comprehensive radio and internet employment campaign designed to get your job openings noticed. For details, just reach out to your account manager. Put the power of radio and the internet to work for you at IllinoisJobPost.com.
WTIM. You're listening to the WTIM Morning Show on your information station. The show is sponsored by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville. I'm your host, Reed Kamai. If you're a fan of soccer, listen up, because some high-quality men's soccer is coming back to Central Illinois this summer in the form of Springfield FC. Their second season in USL League 2, which is in the fourth tier of American men's soccer, kicks off very soon. They host St. Louis Ambush on Wednesday, May 20th at 7 in the evening at Sacred Heart Griffin High School, which is their home ground throughout the season. Joining us in this part of the program is Springfield FC's head coach, Jack Taranchik. Coach, thanks for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me.
Yes. You on and yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about your team and the competition. Let's start first just a little bit with USL League 2. It's a very large competition. Talk about really what it's like and the teams you'll be playing, kind of how it works for listeners who may not be aware.
Yeah, so the USL League 2 it used to be called the PDL years and years ago, and basically, with USL's expansion and shifting, it's basically what they consider like the lowest tier of professional / semi-professional soccer in the country. So it is still considered, pre-professional / semi-professional. And what you get in terms of like players, you get college kids at every level across the country playing on rosters. You get international kids. You get players with professional experience. You get coaches with professional experience from in terms of like what you want to see in the league. It's truly a tremendous product in terms of, the quality. I think that's the biggest thing that I think would shock a lot of people, the quality of the league. You look at our last year's team and, we'll get into that eventually, but, we had kids that were in EPL clubs. We had Jamal Hector Ingram, who was with West Ham until 20 and then played in the English Championship, which is their second division for Derby County, and played professional matches and is friends with players like Declan Rice and some of these guys. So in terms of the level, you're getting a very impressive level in Central Illinois, which is awesome for our community.
Wow, I didn't know that about Jamal Hector Ingram, and I'd followed your team last year, so that's a really neat note, especially considering Declan Rice will be playing in a certain Champions League final as of the day before we're having this conversation right now. So that's really cool. And then in terms of the recruitment, talk about that because I've seen a lot of players come in from Division I. We have a Division II school, obviously, right in that same city. So what's that like in terms of trying to get a hold of these players?
Yeah. So Frank and I, and Frank's the owner and president. We're on the same page with pretty much every decision, which has been very, 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 very smooth up to this point. But the biggest thing that, we look for in players, and, we talked all through last year and this summer, last year and, basically all this fall, and kind of what do we want? What type of player, what type of team? And we basically boiled it down to three things. One, we want players from blue chip programs. So if you're talking about, to equate it to anybody who might be listening to like football, we're looking for the Alabamas, the Clemsons, the Notre Dames, those type of programs. So we're bringing in, a handful of guys from SLU, which they made it to the Final Four in college soccer this past year. And Louisville, we're bringing in a player from Louisville as well. And then, the other side of it, I'd say the second, type of player we're looking for, we are looking for players that play a lot and not just players that are on roster. So, to kind of compare the first two, if you're in a blue chip program, we expect that you played at a high level and you've been in a high level environment. And if you're not a part of a blue chip program, that's okay, but you need to be playing. So that was the second part. If they're not from, a quote unquote blue blood, college soccer program, can we get players that are, over 1,000-minute guys at their programs? Because that shows us that they're going to be fit. They're probably a pretty good player. And just in terms of, I just don't think it's a great look for us as a team if you're bringing in a lot of players who aren't playing minutes. You need guys that are fit and have playing experience. If you bring in a bunch of guys that are on rosters but not playing, you sometimes have, a little bit of rust on your roster. So mixing in those blue chip players with players that are just getting a lot of minutes and starts and a lot of playing time. And then the third, we do bring in local kids. There's a good amount. I have the roster in front of me. You look at, our goalkeepers. We've got one from UIS, one from UMSL, which isn't too far away, and then one from SLU, which is from Springfield, Illinois. He went to SHG, Connor Dillman. And then Joe Brudnak was Springfield High. And then Will Myers, a Carlinville kid who was at a community college and then transferred to UMSL. So, we do like to have local kids as well. I think that's one thing, that the local talent in this area has gotten better and better and better. We have 17-year-olds that are going to be on the roster. Don't know, I had conversations with them. I don't know how much they're going to play, but in terms of developing them and giving them opportunities to be in a high level environment, and then maybe by the time they're 20 and 21, they're being impact players for us. So the long-winded version, kind of abbreviated, is we want players in either blue chip programs, players that are getting consistent minutes somewhere, or we want the local top players in, either training with us or on the team to develop them to be big players for us in the future.
No, that's great, and it sounds like you have all those different, kind of ways about looking at players, looking for players in terms of and the blue chip term you use. And I want to ask about that because unlike with football and even with women's soccer, it seems like, at least as far as I can tell, the top programs in college men's soccer, at least in Division I, they really fluctuate quite a bit, and seems like you see a lot of different teams in the latter part of the season. So, how do you kind of keep up with that as teams evolve and as all of that changes, really just from year to year?
I think it's a very, very true comment. Look at Vermont, they won it the other year. Vermont historically, has anybody ever said Vermont is the soccer capital of this country? Probably not. But it's true. It's an interesting dynamic because on these college rosters, you can think 20-something international players. Look at Missouri State the other year. They had one American player on their roster. So in terms of what college soccer is in comparison to, football or baseball, or I would say basketball is getting more international, but, it's a different dynamic and how quick you can flip these teams, and you can be great one year and then the portal just completely shocks things. There's over one time recently, because the portal just opened up at the beginning of May, but there's 2,500 to 3,000 players in the portal for men's soccer. So it's a very weird game. But in terms of some blue bloods, SLU's always been there, and Maryland and UNC and UCLA, but then, like you said, to your point, you get Akron, come out and have some dynasties, and you get Vermont come out, and every once in a while you get some random program across the country just has a fantastic couple of years, and it's a good thing for the sport. It really is. You don't want, in my opinion, you don't want the same 6 teams always being the best. You want it to be an even playing field for everybody. But yeah, it is certainly a very interesting conversation, but it's one that with the portal, it can change within 15 minutes. You know, those portal guys, it's just jumping. Which, you know, my opinion, because I run a club called CIU, which is going into MLS Next, which is the top youth structure, and I'm a part of SASA, which is the local club here in the Springfield area as well. I help out with them. But I will say this. If you go into a program, and we tell players all the time, go there thinking you're going there for 4 years. Don't go there thinking, oh, I'm going to go there. Coach told me I'm going to play, and I'm going to get a bunch of film and transfer. I think that's a very disingenuous offer when coaches say that, because they can't promise you anything. They can't guarantee anything. They can't promise you anything. So, you know, long story short, for me, this portal kind of changes the entire landscape of everything, for sure, in terms of the college soccer dynamic.
Yeah, it's been a big part of not just soccer, but a lot of other sports as well. And yeah, you can make the case that really plays into some of the trends I had mentioned earlier. I'm talking right now with Jack Taranchik, head coach of Springfield FC, whose season starts very soon at Sacred Heart Griffin High School. That's where they'll be playing their home games. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll continue this conversation right here on the WTIM Morning Show on your information station.
Your information station, WTIM.
Tornado baseball and softball, plus playoff games, are on New Country 104.1 this spring. Tune in or listen to the live audio stream of select baseball and softball games, plus playoffs of both teams. Brought to you by
the Taylorville Community Credit Union, the Christian County YMCA, Rural Rentals, and Scooters Coffee.
The purple and gold are coming your way. The Taylorville Tornadoes are going to do it today.
When it comes to connecting with America's farmers and ranchers, nothing beats the authentic voice of Ag Radio. Farm broadcasters have been the voice of rural America since 1944, building trusted relationships with agricultural producers across generations. Today, the network of over 140 Ag radio stations reaches farmers and ranchers during their most productive hours, when they're actively working their operations and making business decisions. What makes Ag Radio uniquely effective? Farmers listen to farm broadcasters for information that directly impacts their livelihood. When your message is delivered alongside crucial weather updates, market reports, and agricultural news, it receives the same attention and credibility. Farm Radio Connects offers agricultural advertisers targeted access to this engaged audience through professionals who understand both broadcasting and agriculture. According to the National Association of Farm Broadcasting, 78% of farmers consider information from farm broadcasters highly trustworthy. When you need to reach rural America effectively, choose the voices they already trust. Visit IllinoisFarmRadio.com and discover how Ag Radio can elevate your agricultural marketing strategy.
Looking for a comfortable lifestyle in a small community? Rolling Meadows Senior Living in Taylorville is now accepting applications for residency. They offer seniors 62 and older a smoke-free facility with round-the-clock maintenance, controlled access, large kitchens with full-size appliances, on-site laundry, Wi-Fi in common areas, and located close to shopping and dining. Call 217-287-2450 to schedule an appointment. Rolling Meadows is sponsored by Lutheran Social Services of Illinois and funded through U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and Federal Home Bank of Chicago. Rolling Meadows is an equal housing opportunity provider.
Your locally owned Scooters Coffee at routes 29 and 104 in Taylorville are proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the WTIM Tornado Give Back promotion. Scooters Coffee will donate the following to the Taylorville Sports Boosters. For each Tornado varsity football touchdown, they're donating $10. For each three-point shot in varsity Tornado boys and girls basketball games, they're donating $3. And $5 for each home run scored by varsity baseball and softball team. The 22 local Scooters Coffee Taylorville, thank you for your business. Amazing people, amazing drinks, amazingly fast.
With over 8 hours a day of agriculture programming weekdays and 2 hours on Saturdays, WTIM AM, FM, and online is your ag information station. Listen by tuning in on air or online, and listen to WTIM Ag podcasts anytime.
Spring brings brighter days and more time to enjoy them. Your home should too. At Hickory Point Garden Homes in Forsyth, enjoy one-story living and walking paths right outside your door. Spend less time on upkeep and more time enjoying spring. Learn more by clicking our icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
WTIM.
Welcome back to the WTIM Morning Show on your information station. The show is sponsored by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville. I'm your host, Reed Kamai, and I continue my conversation with Jack Taranchik, the head coach of Springfield FC, whose team begins its season in USL League 2 on Wednesday, May 20th, when they host St. Louis Ambush at Sacred Heart Griffin High School. Coach, I know you mentioned a little bit about some of your involvement in soccer in Springfield apart from the club, but yeah, I'd love to just hear a little more about your work in the beautiful game in Springfield.
Yeah, so currently, I'll rewind. So I grew up in the Chicagoland area, played for the Chicago Fire Academy's MLS Academy team. Then I went to University of Illinois Springfield, played there for 4 years, was a captain there for 3, and then I was kind of in a crossroads and then went into coaching for a couple of years there. So I was a GA, I was a grad assistant over there for 2 years, and kind of was considering a full-time career into college coaching, and then pivoted and then went into the youth game quite a bit and started coaching at SASA. Then started kind of, I had quite a few teams and responsibilities at SASA. Kept kind of working my way through the coaching licenses. I'm up here right now in Rockford in the U.S. Soccer B license course, but and then got the there's this club that's basically where our elite players go, called Central Illinois United, that SASA is a part of, and I am the boys director over there. And we just recently had them get into MLS Next, which is the top youth platform in the country, which is fantastic for the Central Illinois community. And then, I'll be honest, last summer, kind of working with Frank and working with Springfield FC, I was getting a little bit, stale for me. And then working with those guys last summer and seeing that level and being a part of that was truly special for me. It really kind of woke something up in me in terms of motivation. And now we have a really, really big goal in terms of building this out, year to year, making this better and better and better. But I'm really looking forward to the season for sure.
No, I'll bet. And so it sounds like you had quite the trajectory. So Springfield FC, at least in terms of a particular club or team, is that the highest level you've coached at so far?
Yeah, I would say between that and just being, I would say, it's crazy to say this, but being in these kids that we're bringing in, but being in an academy environment, so a professional environment, when I was at the Fire Academy, we went down to Guadalajara, Mexico, and trained with the first team during their preseason. So in terms of being in a high level environment, very used to it. It's nothing new. And I coached with a guy, Jesse, who was the head coach of UIS. I was at Clemson and Virginia Tech. He was at SLU. He was in Missouri State. So I had some of the best coaches in the country when I was with the Fire. So I've been very fortunate to have been in a ton of high level environments. And what's crazy, it's something that even it's hard for me to kind of, I pinch myself. We have this in Springfield. This is these players are coming to Springfield to play. And you look at the growth of the game, look at the Shield Sports Complex that just opened up. You look at, all the facilities that are available now that haven't been in the past. The game has just truly grown exponentially.
No, it certainly has. And just in so many ways, especially in America. Now, Springfield FC, it's in the 4th tier. You have to drive an hour and a half to St. Louis City SC in Major League Soccer. What does it mean to have this level of soccer in Springfield, whereas you have to drive so far away for other teams?
Yeah, I think it does a lot of things. I think one, from the fan perspective, you get, I was listening to another podcast a couple weeks ago, and they were talking about the USL League 2, and it's like, you guys can go for, less than the cost of a movie ticket. And these are high level games in your backyard. And we're extremely fortunate. But from the local kid perspective, these kids, the goal is to develop this club and continue making the strides that we are. And, these kids go to the game, and then hopefully these kids are, have ambitions to be Springfield FC players when they go and play, whether they're high level high school players or they're high-level college players, or they have professional ambitions, like many players on our roster do.
No, that's great. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, so your season starts Wednesday, May 20th. You're at home to St. Louis Ambush. Kickoff is at 7 at Sacred Heart Griffin High School. And yeah, just looking forward to seeing you folks play this season. Jack Taranchik with Springfield FC. Jack, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and thank you for listening here on the WTIM Morning Show on your information station. We'll be back in just a little bit.
WTIM. WTIM.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. Project Freedom is being put on hold. President Trump hitting the pause button on that effort to guide commercial vessels out of the Strait of Hormuz. The move comes as the president hints that a deal to end the war could be close at hand. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi has told his Iranian counterpart Abbas Araghchi that China is deeply distressed over the war. China's top diplomat met with his Iranian counterpart earlier today in Beijing. Russia has fired dozens of drones at Ukraine, ignoring a unilateral ceasefire announced earlier by Kiev. The U.S. military launching another strike on a vessel suspected of transporting drugs in the eastern Pacific Ocean. 3 men on board that vessel were killed. The opening bell sounding now on Wall Street, stocks starting off the day higher. More details, srnnews.com.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-583-0141. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 five-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-583-0141. That's 800-583-0141. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
WTIM.
This is Reed Kamai reporting. Thursday is the National Day of Prayer, and a gathering in Pana looks to bring local observers of a variety of faiths together. It's set for that day tomorrow at 7:30 in the morning at The Well on 118 South Locust Street. The event is expected to be short to allow attendees to go to work thereafter. Pena's prayer event is the culmination of the collaboration of multiple